In this lifetime, Xiaolingen, the current Grand Chancellor, had always sailed smooth waters, a life of prestige, success, and prosperity. Only in matters of love did he fall short, longing endlessly yet never fulfilled. The world often said, "Never covet another man's wife." But little did they know, that woman was his rightful wife in a previous life, married through the full rites of 3 letters and 6 ceremonies, properly and honorably. When Xiaolingen awoke, his head throbbed as if struck by a hammer. He rubbed his temple, anger surging within. "Someone! Bring me brush, ink, and paper. I'm writing a divorce letter." A foolish, unruly woman with no sense of propriety, he could not endure her another moment. All he had done was annul the engagement between his eldest son and the Duke's legitimate daughter, then arrange the marriage with Shinji's youngest daughter instead. How could that drive his wife to destroy them both in hatred? He knew well that Lu Yixuan, Shinji's daughter, was plain in both background and appearance. But she represented a debt, one he owed Shinji, and one both he and his wife owed the Shin family. The Xiao and Shin families had been betrothed since childhood. Even when misfortune struck the Xiao household, the Shins never withdrew their promise. Had Qin Renren not deliberately fallen into the water to ensnare him, he never would have married the only daughter of the Qin family from the suburbs. If not, how would Shinji have ended up marrying off his daughter to the half-witted Lu Hui? Only to see her die in bitterness under that man's cruelty. Thinking of this, Xiaolingen clenched his fists. Today, even if he truly had to divorce, he would fulfill the last wish Shinji had entrusted him with before his death. "Where is everyone?" he shouted. "What do I keep you useless fools for?" His roar shook the room, but his chest felt oddly hollow. Finally, a young servant, Zhang Liusu, came rushing in. "Master, what are your orders?" The boy bowed respectfully, though a flicker of confusion crossed his eyes. Since the fall of the Xia household, the master had been gravely ill. How could he now seem so spirited? Xiaolingen pressed his temples, irritation building. "I said bring brush and paper, I'm writing a divorce letter." And in his mind, Qin Renren earned yet another sin. A mistress who couldn't even manage the servants. What use was she? Zhang Liusu fell to his knees in shock. Has the master lost his mind from grief? "Master, you are not yet married." Xiaolingen froze. "Master." For over 10 years as Grand Chancellor, all addressed him as Your Excellency or Minister Xia. It had been long since anyone called him master. Just as he was about to rebuke the boy for his insolence, realization dawned. The bed beneath him was not the rosewood one he always used. And the hand he stretched out was no longer aged and lined, but smoothly pale, slender, the hand of a youth. His mind went blank. Then his breath came fast. He had once read out such things in strange old tales. Those who awaken to find themselves reborn. Could it be that he, Xiaolingen, too, had been granted a heavenly chance? He looked at Zhang Liuzu, kneeling nearby, a boy of no more than 18 or 20. "Liuzu, what year is it now?" Forcing himself to stay calm, Xiaolingen knew he had to grasp the situation before taking his next step. The boy scratched his head. "Master, it's the 10th year of the Kongda era." "Kongda, year 10. Xiaolingen froze. That was the very year the Xia family met disaster, the entire clan condemned by the court. His father, a collateral member of the Xia line, had not escaped the purge. In a single night, the once prestigious Xia family of Jiangqing became criminals of the realm. Their home confiscated, their servants scattered. Had it not been for his mother, Qin Jilan, who still owned a small house in the suburbs, he and she would have had nowhere to live. That same year, he had fallen prey to Chen Renren, the girl who lived nearby, and been forced to annul his engagement to Shinji's daughter. He had carried that regret for the rest of his life. He drew a deep breath to steady the emotion rising in his chest. "Someone, where is my mother?" This time, he would stop her from hosting that meaningless wedding feast. so that the Chen family would have no chance to play their tricks. The madam is reviewing the guest list for tomorrow's banquet, Master, Zhang Liuzhu replied. She said she wants it lively, to bring back some joy to our household. While the servant prattled on, Xiao Lingan's mind flashed with memory. In his previous life, during that very same banquet, Chen Renren had deliberately fallen into the lake before his mother's eyes. He, too, had been shoved from behind and plunged into the water. Before the watching crowd, the two of them were drenched from head to toe. And to preserve his family's honor, he had been forced to marry her. After entering the house, Chen Renren had appeared diligent and gentle. But the more industrious she pretended to be, the more her calculating heart showed through. At first, he had only disliked her. Later, when he rose in rank, her relatives from the Chen family came flocking to curry favor, until disgust consumed him. At that thought, his intention to stop the banquet began to fade. The Chens liked scheming, did they not? Then let them reap what they sowed. She wanted to fall into the water. So be it, let her stay there long enough. When Qin Jilan visited her son in the bamboo courtyard, she found him sitting by the window, brush in hand, writing quietly. His thin frame and pale face twisted her heart with pain. She approached with a bowl of tonic soup, stepping gently behind him. On the snowy white paper lay 4 neat characters, Yuan Yuan Qing Kai. Her heart ached as if stabbed. Xinji's daughter, Xin Yuyuan, courtesy name Yuan Yuan. If the Xia family had not fallen from grace, that girl would have been her daughter-in-law. But on the very day the Xia estate was seized, Xin Huai, Xinji's son, had led his relatives to their door, speaking with righteous indignation about loyalty to the throne. He had declared that the Xin family would never associate with traitors. It sounded noble, but it was merely an excuse to sever ties. Chen Jilan had seen through everything. She had pleaded, even knelt, but the Xins were unmoved. Back then, Xin Yuyuan had hidden behind her brother, a handkerchief covering half her face, eyes filled with disgust as if she were looking upon something filthy. Godmother, I've always seen Lingen as an elder brother, she'd said softly. Besides, my brother has already arranged my marriage. Please don't force this, Godmother. If you anger my betrothed's family, neither you nor Lingen will have a place in Jiangcheng again. Before the Xia family's downfall, Yu Yuan had often visited, sweetly calling her godmother this and godmother that. All smiles and courtesy. Who would have thought she would turn her back so swiftly? Not long after, the Xin family publicly declared that if the Xias dared approach again, they would show no mercy. For half her life, Chen Jilan had been respected and admired. Now her reputation was torn to shreds, trampled beneath the feet of the world. And her heart bled from the pain. Even though she mocked herself inwardly, a tiger fallen to the plains, now scorned by dogs, Chen Jilan understood all too well, their family's glory was gone. No matter the humiliation, she had to swallow it in silence. Since the engagement with the Xin family had been annulled, she had not dared to tell Xiao Lingen. Her son was proud and still frail from illness. If he learned the truth now, the blow might break him completely. Better to wait until his health improved, before telling him slowly. Pretending not to notice the letter on the desk, she spoke softly. Lingen, you've only just recovered. Don't sit too long. You must take care of yourself. From now on, your mother and the Xia family will depend on you. Xia Lingen accepted the bowl of soup, though his thoughts were far from the future. In his previous life, he had climbed step by step to the position of Grand Chancellor. In this life, how could he do any less? Only one thought remained in his heart. This time, I will never fail Xinji. Mother, he said, calm but resolute, the wedding between Yuan Yuan and me draws near. It's time our household begins preparations. In a few days, I'll visit the Xin residence myself. Chen Jilan's heart tightened. She forced a smile. Lingen, there's no need to rush your marriage. Our family's situation is difficult now, we mustn't let Miss Shin suffer for it. Perhaps wait until you've earned your degree before. But Xiao Lingyan was no longer listening. He remembered too clearly. In his past life, after he married Chen Renren, Xin Yuyuan soon married into the Lu family. Though she had been the one he wronged, he would never allow that tragedy to repeat. Heaven had granted him a second life, surely it was to make amends to Xin Ji and Yuyuan. This time, no mistake would be permitted. That evening, the Xiao family's banquet was lively and grand. Every household in the area that received an invitation brought their daughters along. Madame Xia had said she liked young girls, soft-spoken, gentle, and graceful. The kind that would win anyone's affection. Hearing this, the guests all speculated. Was the madam hoping to find a daughter-in-law tonight? Rumor had it that the Xia family's young master was brilliant in study and striking in looks. A rare and ideal husband. Had the family not fallen from grace, none of these families would even dream of stepping foot into their gates. Thus, everyone tried to curry favor, hoping Madame Xia might take notice of their daughters. Chen Jilin sat at the head seat, chatting with the other ladies, while her gaze, seemingly casual, swept over the young women at the tables. She had long inquired about the Chen family in the eastern suburbs. They had an only daughter named Chen Renren. Graceful and well-educated despite losing her father young. Her mother was sickly, leaving all household affairs to her. A sensible, capable girl like that, Chen Jilin thought, is exactly what our family needs now. Xiao Lingyan had no idea what calculations lay behind his mother's gentle smile. He simply stood to one side, a faint, cold curve tugging at his lips. At first, he had planned not to attend. He despised Chen Renren's face more than anything in the world. But if he didn't show up, how could her little play proceed? Better to give her a glimmer of hope. And when she fell into the lake, he would stand afar and watch it unfold. His thoughts drifted to the memories of his previous life. Back then, his marriage to Chen Renren had been filled with resentment. Because she had trapped him, he never once stepped foot into her courtyard. At first, she had tried everything to please him. Later, perhaps tired, she stopped, and they quietly avoided each other. Only when his mother pressed him about heirs did he reluctantly share her bed a few times. And nothing more. Afterwards, she busied herself solely with their son. While he lived freely, even secretly aiding Shinji and teaching Louis Xuan. Yet in the end, all his efforts could not erase the regrets between him and Shinji's daughter. As he was lost in thought, the gatekeeper suddenly ran in and called out. Is Madame Chang'e here? Miss Renren has fallen into the lake. At once, Chen Jilin, Xiao Lingyan, and Mei Qingyi all shot to their feet. Mei Qingyi gasped and apologized profusely. Her only daughter, her one precious child, had fallen into the water. Without hesitation, she hurried out toward the lake, following the direction the gatekeeper pointed. Chen Jilin slowly regained her composure and sat back down. It's fine, she murmured. If not this time, there will be others. Her gaze softened as it fell upon her son's handsome face, her heart settling into uneasy calm. Meanwhile, Xiao Lingyan frowned slightly, unsettled. Something wasn't right, this wasn't how it had happened before. In his previous life, Chen Renren had fallen into the lake inside the eastern courtyard of the Xia estate. Why was it different this time? Perhaps heaven truly had eyes. He shook his head, pushing the thought away. At the Chen residence, Chen Renren lay trembling under thick quilts. Her mother, Mei Qingyi, ladled warm broth to her lips, scolding as she did so. The weather isn't even that cold yet, but it's chilly enough. You child, can't you be more careful? If you fall sick, who do you expect to cry to then? Renren's teeth chattered audibly, but inside, she felt a crushing weight lift from her chest. At last, she had avoided it. Better to jump into the lake herself than be pushed in by someone else. Reborn into this life, she swore she would never again let history repeat itself. The Shin family's ancestral matron was frail and often unwell. Every month, Madame Shin took her daughter Shinji to Qingshan Temple to offer incense. For several days, Xiaolingyan had hidden nearby with Zhang Liusu, waiting for their carriage to appear. When it finally did, he stepped forward, accidentally colliding with it. The Shin family's coachman snapped. "Where did you crawl out from, a fool? If you frighten our young lady, you won't live to see tomorrow." A calm, clear voice came from behind the curtain. "Lai Fu, enough. Stop shouting. Mother has gone ahead." Shinji lifted the curtain slightly. The moment Xiaolingyan saw the one he had longed for day and night. His hand gripped the window frame, voice trembling. Yuan, it's me. It's Lingyan, your Lingyan." These past days, he had suffered nothing but scorn. He and Shenhui, her elder brother, had once studied together at the same academy. They had shared poems and debated philosophy like true friends. Yet now, the servants of the Shin household pretended not to know him, refusing even to let him through the gates. With no other way, he had resorted to waiting outside the temple. Shinji froze for a moment at the sight of him. She already knew what her family had said last time. They had made their stance very clear. Still, she maintained her composure, face unreadable. Xiaolingyan poured out his heart, too earnest to notice the faint crease in her brow. Yuan, you're nearly of age now. Our betrothal should be properly arranged. I've spoken with my mother, we'll make sure the ceremony is perfect. I know the Xia family is struggling. But please, believe me. I'll study hard, achieve high honors, and make you the most respected lady in the capital." His voice was fervent and sincere. But Shinji felt only weariness and disgust. How laughable. Did he really think she was a love-struck fool from a romance tale? The Xia family's crimes were no small matter. Their estate had been confiscated. And rumor had it they were now living in the outskirts with only 2 young servants, without even a proper maid left to serve them. If she truly married into that ruin, wouldn't the noble girls of the capital laugh her to death? Mistress of glory. In her eyes, Xiaolingyan had gone mad. Still, Shinji knew she couldn't corner him completely. Besides, her engagement with the Liu family had already been arranged. It simply hadn't been announced yet. Lest the world accuse the Shin family of abandoning the poor for the rich. If she made a scene now, her own reputation among the gentry would be ruined. So she smoothed her expression and spoke gently. Lingyan, your talent, I've always admired it. I believe you'll surely succeed and restore your family's honor. It's just that Mother wishes to keep me by her side for a few more years. There's no need to hurry our marriage. Focus on your studies, don't let outside matters distract you. Her words were soft, kind, and proper. Yet the warmth in Xiaolingyan's heart began to fade. In his previous life, he had mastered the art of reading people's hearts as Grand Chancellor. How could he not see through her polite evasion? The affection burning within him cooled by half in an instant. When she noticed that he hadn't replied and his face was growing darker by the moment, Shinji's patience thinned as well. Lingyan, the Xia family isn't what it once was. If you have time to waste on this, you'd do better to study, don't let emotion ruin your future. Xiaolingyan straightened his back, cold wind slipping down the collar of his robe. In the end, he was still reaching too high. Yet the demon in his heart, the one that had tormented him for an entire lifetime, could not be so easily erased. His expression was calm, but deep down, he couldn't bear the thought of Shinji suffering the same miserable fate again. Yuan, he said quietly, if you trust me, then wait a little longer. No later than next year, I'll earn my title and come to marry you in glory. But if you do not, then don't go to the Liu family either. It's not a good place. With that, Xiaolingyan turned and walked away. Shinji's brows furrowed deeply. Her brother had already arranged her marriage into the Liu family, had Xiaolingyan somehow heard of it. When Xiaolingyan left the temple, His chest had been filled with fire. By the time he returned, all his strength had drained away. Before he could even reach the green bamboo courtyard, the gatekeeper came running after him, panting hard. "Master, I've found out. The girl who fell into the water the other day, it was the only daughter of the Chin family. She was at our estate for the banquet and somehow slipped and fell into the lake. Luckily, fate spared her. A passing scholar pulled her out. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened. And yesterday, that very scholar came to propose marriage, saying Miss Chin is virtuous and capable, a perfect wife to manage a household. He insisted she should be wed without delay. A fine couple, beauty and talent well matched." The servant Lin San, who had been listening nearby, chuckled cheerfully, unaware that his master's face had grown darker and darker. Xiao Lingyan, who'd already been stifling anger all day, now felt his chest burn anew. That woman, Chen Renren, had repeated the same ploy, and this time it had worked even better for her. Even if that so-called scholar wasn't his equal, the thought of her getting what she wanted filled him with fury and bitterness. His words came out sharp and venomous. "Fell into the water once and suddenly she's virtuous and capable. And he calls himself a scholar. What use is reading if he's that shallow? He'd do better finding another trade." He paused, scowling. "What's the scholar's name?" Lin San blinked in confusion, still reeling from his master's outburst. It was Zhang Liuzhu who nudged him twice before he stammered. I happened to hear someone mention it. His surname's Su, they call him Su Yunqiu." Su Yunqiu. The name sounded faintly familiar to Xiao Lingyan, though he couldn't place it at first. Moments later, he gave a cold, self-mocking laugh. "Zhou Yu strikes Huang Gai, one willing to hit, the other willing to take it. Why waste my thoughts on them?" March 10th, the wedding day of the Su and Chen families. Qin Renren sat in her bridal chamber, a crimson veil draped over her head, surrounded by relatives and cousins chattering happily. Her second aunt, third aunt, and several cousins laughed and teased without end. "Sister Renren, we heard your groom wrote you so many poems. Read a few for us, won't you?" It was a joyous occasion, and everyone loved to make merry. The laughter and teasing only grew louder, until Renren's cheeks flushed pink beneath her veil. Before long, shouts came from the front gates. "The groom has arrived to fetch the bride." Firecrackers crackled, the sound of Suona horns filled the air, and the Chen residents burst into lively celebration. Outside, Su Yunqiu stood at the threshold, clearing the symbolic gates one by one, eager to claim his bride. Mei Qingyi held her daughter's hand tightly, her eyes soft but earnest. "Renren, Yunqiu is a good man. You and he must care for each other. Work together as husband and wife. His parents are both gone. Once you enter that house, you'll be the one managing all affairs. Whatever comes, stay calm, don't panic." Hearing her mother's gentle admonition, Qin Renren couldn't help but recall her previous life. In that life, she had attended the Xia family banquet with her mother. After sitting too long, she'd gone out to the lakeside for some fresh air. Only to be shoved from behind. She had known how to swim, but before she could react, there was another splash. Later, she learned that young Master Xia had jumped in to save her. He was refined and warm as jade. For a moment, she had been dazed. When Madame Xia later came to the Chen household to propose, her heart had nearly leapt from her chest with joy. On the day she was first married, Mei Qingyi had also held her daughter's hand, her face shadowed with unease. "Renren, the Xia family isn't like ours. Once you marry into that house, you must be cautious in all things." Back then, Chen Renren hadn't truly understood. Her father was a scholar, and she herself had read a fair number of books. Wasn't marriage supposed to be a woman's greatest happiness? And surely Xiao Lingyan must have liked her. Otherwise, why would he have jumped into the lake to save her? Why would he have come to her home to propose? But only after she actually entered the Xia household did she realize how laughably naive she had been. The Xia residence was large but hollow, its grandeur an empty shell. Once married, she was expected not only to serve her mother-in-law but also to manage the family's dwindling accounts. And above all, she had to endure Xiaolingen's cold indifference day after day. Many nights her pillow was soaked with tears. Yet every morning she rose to face the same bleak reality. The Xia family spent but never earned. Before long, they couldn't even maintain their daily expenses. The 2 remaining servants were dismissed. And from then on every household chore fell on her shoulders. More than once, she had swallowed her pride and gone back to her mother's house to borrow silver. She gave her heart completely, for the Xia family, for Xiaolingen. But he only despised her all the more. Thinking back on that life, Qin Renren felt her chest tighten, breath stifled. Just then, a warm hand covered hers, grounding her. Laughter and cheers rose around her again. And the gentle voice of Su Yunqiu cut through the haze before her eyes like a shaft of sunlight. "My lady, watch your step. Let's be on our way." As the wedding carriage rolled past the Xia estate, Chen Jilon's face turned black as ink. A moment's difference, that girl could have been her daughter-in-law. But alas, fate had other plans. With 1 foot already at the Xia gates, Chen Renren had been claimed by another. Jilon sighed and swallowed her frustration. Lately even Xiaolingen had been irritable. The summer heat was suffocating, and not a single block of ice could be found in the house. He went to his mother's courtyard, his tone edged with complaint. "Mother, it's already June. Why hasn't the household ordered ice?" Jilon's heart ached for her son, yet there was nothing she could do. Such luxuries were far beyond what their family could now afford. She could only explain the situation carefully. When Xiaolingen left his mother's quarters, his brow was furrowed tight. He remembered that in his previous life, while Chen Renren was still alive, his study had never once been without ice in summer. He hadn't thought much of it then, now he realized it must have come from her dowry. But rather than feel moved, Xiaolingen's heart only hardened. Serves her right, he thought bitterly. If she hadn't schemed her way into his house, she wouldn't have had to spend her own money to maintain it. A bit of heat, and she expected him to remember her kindness. He could endure this much. He muttered to himself as he walked back. Calm heart, cool mind. Calm heart, cool mind. While Xiaolingen stifled his anger and misery, Su Yunqiu lived his days in joy. Ever since Qin Renren became his wife, he felt as though he lived inside a jar of honey. Morning and night, it was always my beloved wife this, my beloved wife that. A few of his fellow scholars teased him for being inexperienced in worldly affairs. But they didn't know, Su Yunqiu had loved Qin Renren since they were children. Her father had been his first teacher. As a boy, he had often seen her. A chubby, bright-eyed little girl who drew affection from everyone who looked at her. After his mentor's death, she had grown up overnight, becoming the pillar of her family. Her quiet strength had always moved him. He had helped her in secret more than once but never dared let it be known. Orphaned early though he was, with a small inheritance left to him, he had never felt worthy of her. So he buried himself in study, determined to earn a place on the imperial exam rolls and one day propose properly. He never imagined fate would intervene, that he would see her slip into the lake before his very eyes. He had forgotten that he couldn't swim. He jumped in without hesitation. In the end, it was Chen Renren who pulled him to safety. It had been clumsy, almost comical, yet heaven must have smiled upon them. For now he could watch her sewing under the afternoon sun. Her head bowed, lips curved faintly as she mended his robe. Without realizing it, Su Yunqiu laughed aloud. The sound startled her. She turned toward the window and caught his gaze through the lattice. Her ears flushed crimson. "The provincial exam is coming," she said, her voice a soft scold. "Stop laughing and get back to your books." Su Yunqiu quickly lowered his head, not daring to lose focus any further. The provincial examination came swiftly. Qin Renren had long since prepared everything for him. In the rectangular examination basket, 3 neat compartments were arranged: food, daily necessities, and clothing. After a tender farewell, Su Yuncho and several fellow scholars set out for the examination hall. As they passed the Xia residence, one of them, Zhang Zi, suggested, "Why not invite Xiaolingen to come along? It's good to have company, and we can discuss literature on the road." When Xiaolingen opened the door and saw the small group of scholars standing outside, Su Yuncho quickly explained their purpose. Xiaolingen had no desire to associate with them. But in recent days, his household had grown truly impoverished. Both of his young servants had been dismissed. And since the journey to Zhengzhou was long, he reluctantly agreed to join them. Along the road, the group often teased Su Yuncho. Xiaolingen listened quietly, a cold smirk forming in his heart. So this is the man, a fool who's never seen the world. Qin Renren only had to play a few little tricks, and he's already bewitched. Unaware of Xiaolingen's scornful thoughts, Su Yuncho cheerfully broke a baked pastry in half and offered it to him. "Brother Xia, my wife baked this. Try it, it's delicious." Xiaolingen's heart gave a faint tremor as he looked at the golden pastry in his hand. Qin Renren had once loved baking the same kind. He had always found them crude and heavy, lacking elegance. And yet, before he realized it, he had already taken a bite. The rich aroma of rice flour and oil spread across his tongue. For a fleeting moment, something like nostalgia stirred in his chest. When he lifted his eyes, he caught Su Yuncho's bright, guileless smile. And suddenly, that smile seemed unbearably dazzling. Before long, the exam results were announced. Xiaolingen had taken first place, provincial laureate. It was as expected, yet when he brought the good news to the Shen residents, he felt as withered as a frost-bitten leaf. "Are you asking about the second miss of the Shen family? Why, she married into the Liu household a few months ago." "TSK, quite the match, the Liu son holds an official post, you know. And oh, there's more to the story. They say that young lady was once betrothed to her childhood sweetheart. That same young master Xia who made such a scene back in the day. Ha, who doesn't know?" When the Xia family fell from grace, the Shen family rushed to cancel the engagement. Now they deny it ever happened, as if the world were blind. But really, who would want to marry a criminal's kin? If it were me, I'd have done the same. The Lius are far better off. Hearing their gossip, Xiaolingen walked as if in a dream. He remembered clearly, in his past life, on the day he was promoted to Assistant Minister of Rights. Many officials had come to congratulate him, families in tow. Among them had been Shinji, standing beside her husband Liu Hui. Her gaze heavy with resentment. That was the first time they had met again after so many years. Beneath the moonlight, beside a willow-covered corridor, they had crossed paths by chance. "Lingen, may I still call you that now?" she had whispered. "Do you know how long I waited for you back then? When I heard you had married that girl from the suburbs, my heart shattered. How could you do that to me? If not for you, would I have married into the Liu family? Would I be suffering under my mother-in-law's hand every single day? You once said you would protect me for life." It wasn't only Shinji's voice that had trembled. Even Xiaolingen's insides had burned as if torn apart. From that day on, whatever fragile bond still existed between him and Chen Renren disintegrated completely. And now, remembering it all, he realized. It had been nothing more than a dream, one he alone had lived in. At home, Chen Jilan was beaming with joy. Her son had ranked first, even her estranged relatives had come to offer congratulations. They brought gifts of gold and silver, saying it would help him forge connections in the bureaucracy. For in that world, money spoke louder than virtue. Among the guests was Chen Wenyu, her elder brother, accompanied by his younger daughter Chen Wentu, a delicate, gentle girl. When Xiaolingen returned, his mother was laughing and chatting happily, holding her niece's hand. Upon seeing her son, she pulled the girl forward with a delighted smile. Lingen, this is your cousin Wen Tuesday. You two played together as children, surely you remember. But Xiao Lingen's mind was still reeling from what he had overheard outside the Shin estate. His expression turned cold, his voice low and tight. Mother, he said, each word weighed with steel. About the Shin family, coming to cancel the engagement. You knew all along, didn't you? Chen Jilan froze, startled for a moment, but quickly regained her composure. Foolish child, she sighed softly, I only did it for your own good. Our family had fallen, you were ill and bedridden. How could I bear to tell you and add to your worries? Besides, that Shin family isn't so noble. The moment our house met disaster, they came rushing to dissolve the engagement, afraid of being tainted by our name. After months of hardship, even her voice had lost the grace it once carried. Xiao Lingen listened in silence, bitterness rising like boiling oil in his chest. In both lifetimes, he had been deceived, kept blind, trapped in others' designs. At the side, Qin Wentu lowered her head, twisting the corner of her handkerchief, but her ears were keen. She was a legitimate daughter, yet her father's position was modest. And every marriage proposal so far had fallen through. Her cousin Xiao Lingen was handsome, newly crowned as provincial laureate, and destined for greatness. This was her chance, one she dared not lose. Her cheeks flushed faintly as she spoke in a soft, careful tone. Cousin is such an outstanding man. That Miss Shin didn't cherish her fortune, she simply wasn't meant to have it. Only then did Xiao Lingen notice the young lady beside his mother, dressed in a pale lotus-colored gown. He gave a brief nod before turning away toward his room. Wen Tu watched his tall, elegant back disappear into the corridor, dazed for a long moment. By March of the following year, the Xia household rejoiced once more. Xiao Lingen had passed the metropolitan examination as top scorer. Chen Jilan's joy was boundless, one success followed another, lifting her spirits higher than ever. A betrothal was arranged between Xiao Lingen and Chen Wentu. After the palace examination, they would hold the wedding. It was a match that satisfied Chen Jilan completely. A few days earlier, Wentu had been brought back to her family to prepare for marriage. Now, with her son's success, Chen Jilan's pride swelled, even her maternal relatives came bearing praise and gifts. Servants who had once been sold off were repurchased, the estate once again bustled with life. That night, flushed with wine and happiness, Chen Jilan laughed heartily at the dinner table. Tian Mama, tell me, do I have good fortune or not? The old maid smiled, but before she could reply, Chen Jilan poured herself another cup. No, really, listen to me. It's Lingen's fate that's the best of all. When our family was at its lowest, I'd planned for him to marry that Chin girl, the one with a decent face and a sensible mind. She could have managed the household well enough. I knew he still pined for the Shin girl, but how could we ever reach that high again? To spare his pride, I even arranged a little scene, both of them falling into the lake. So no one could tell who saved whom. But alas, there was no fate between them, none at all. My son rose step by step, higher and higher. The Chen family. They could never match him. Still, I heard that girl later married someone who passed the exams too. So in the end, everyone was happy, what a delightful ending. She raised her cup again. Come, Tian Mama, drink with me. Inside, mistress and servant laughed and drank, unaware that Xiao Lingen stood silently outside the door. The night was ink black, he stood there for a long, long time. So, it wasn't Chen Renren who had schemed to trap him. It had been his own mother who had set the snare, using Chen Renren as the pawn. How could it be? How could it? Memory crashed over him like waves. That time, he had stayed away for days, and she had come searching. Only to find him in a brothel. Even then, she hadn't yet lost hope. Her eyes, bright and fierce, had met his. Xiao Lingen, if you despise me so much, why did you save me? Why did you marry me? He had been drunk, bored, irritated by her tears. Without even answering, he had waved her away like one would swat a fly. He hadn't looked back. Yet now, in his mind's eye, the pain and humiliation etched across her face burned vividly. That night, he had fallen ill with a raging fever. In delirium, scenes from the past had flooded back. The wedding night, when in anger and shame, he'd torn off her red veil. Beneath it, Chen Renren's powdered face glowed softly, filled with shy affection. But he had turned his back and left her in silence. Another memory, the Xia family's poverty. Chen Renren trudging back to her mother's house to borrow rice. Her eyes shining like stars, like a trembling fawn. Lingyan, don't worry. With me here, everything will be fine. I believe you'll succeed, I truly do. And what had he done? He'd only sneered, offering not a single word of comfort. Later, when he finally rose in rank and their household held a celebratory banquet, Chen Renren had busied herself serving guests, bustling about tirelessly. Watching her, he'd felt only shame. Ashamed of her rough hands, her plain manners, her rustic scent. The night she gave birth, he was drinking himself senseless with his friends. When he finally staggered home, his mother scolded him harshly. But Chen Renren, cradling the infant in her arms, only spoke softly. Don't blame him, mother. He's been working hard. His official rank rose steadily, his title ever more prestigious. Yet he never once taught his son, never shared a single moment of tenderness. Instead, he accepted the Liu family's request to tutor their children. While Renren could only borrow his name to send her own son to school. He had never imagined that this coarse, unfashionable woman would raise their child so well. Even helping him secure an engagement with the legitimate daughter of a duke's household. By then, he and Renren had long been strangers. He should not have interfered. But because of Shinji's dying wish, he couldn't ignore it. It was a debt, one that both he and Chen Renren owed to Shinji. So, he personally went to the duke's manor to annul his son's betrothal. Then turned around and arranged a match with the Liu family. When Chen Renren heard the news, her eyes went scarlet. She rushed to find him. And in a fit of despair, dragged him with her into the lake. Just as she had done on the day they first met. Scenes in his mind blurred and shifted endlessly. Until suddenly, Chen Renren was married to Su Yunqiu. Back then, he hadn't cared. But now, every word Su Yunqiu had ever spoken rang painfully in his ears. My wife's skillful hands, no one can even spot where she mends a tear. Tastes good, doesn't it? She made it herself. I can't fathom how she's so clever, always finding new ways to surprise me. Xia Lingyan opened his eyes to find Qinjilan sitting beside the bed, her face drawn and weary. Seeing him awake, she hurried to lift a bowl of medicine to his lips. Lingyan, why did you follow so suddenly? Here, drink this. It works wonders. Out of habit, he obeyed, letting the sweet bitter taste slide down his throat. Then his eyes widened slightly. This medicine, where did it come from? That scent, that flavor, it was identical to the cold remedy Chen Renren had brewed for him in his previous life. Qin Jilan, not noticing the tremor in his voice, answered while steadying the bowl. It was from Su Yunqiu. He came by yesterday to visit. When he heard you were unwell, he went home and brought back 2 packets of medicine, said his wife mixed the herbs herself. It works quickly. The faint light that had flickered in his eyes died instantly. Unaware, Chen Jilan continued gently. A man cannot go without a wife. Once your cousin marries in, I'll finally be at peace. Xia Lingyan's lips moved. He wanted to say he regretted it, that he no longer wished to marry his cousin. But the words refused to come. Even if he didn't marry Chen Wen too. He could never marry Chen Renren. She was now another man's wife. After that, Xia Lingyan lived much as he had in his past life. Rising step by step until he reached the seat of Grand Chancellor. The only difference was that, in this life, the woman beside his pillow was his cousin, while the one in his heart was Chen Renren. And Su Yuncho, he too rose swiftly. By the 30th year of the Kangda era, the emperor promoted him to Minister of Rites. It was then that Xiaolingyan realized why that name had once sounded so familiar. In his previous life, Su Yuncho had been Deputy Minister of Rites, and had accompanied the minister several times to pay respects to him. For back then, he had been the superior. But in this life, fate had reversed. Su Yuncho was the one sitting above him. Within the imperial cabinet, officials often whispered about Minister Su's wife. For every day, it seemed, he wore something new that had been made by her hands. Sometimes a string of beaded ornaments. Sometimes a handkerchief embroidered with delicate flowers. And once, even a silk pouch for his teacup. Brother Su, that teacup wrap of yours is exquisite, a wisp of cloud, a drifting boat, marvelous, truly marvelous. Xiaolingyan looked up instinctively. In Su Yuncho's hand was a pale green silk pouch, embroidered with clouds and waves so fine it seemed almost alive. Su Yuncho, realizing everyone was teasing him, only smiled with ease. My wife has clever hands. I can't bear to let my teacups gather dust. Laughter rippled through the room, yet in Xiaolingyan's heart, there was only a faint ache. Qinwen too, gentle and dutiful as she was, had never once made anything for him with her own hands. 2 lifetimes of being human, at last, he could tell true from false. It should have been Chen Renren, not anyone else, who was his wife. Almost without thinking, the words left his lips. Brother Su truly has a most gifted lady. Why not this, tomorrow's a rest day. Bring your families over to my estate for a small gathering. My wife also enjoys lively company, she'll be delighted, I'm sure. After all, we've worked together so long without ever hosting a proper get-together. Tomorrow, we must celebrate thoroughly. The moment he spoke, the ministers around him eagerly nodded. When the Grand Chancellor extended an invitation, who would dare refuse? That afternoon, after court was dismissed, Su Yuncho returned home and cheerfully told his wife. He even teased. Imagine that, the Grand Chancellor throwing a banquet, and I suspect it's on your account. Normally, that man despises feasts and dancing. Yet the moment they joked about you, he suddenly decided to host one. He had meant it as nothing more than a jest. But Chen Renren's brows knit tight, her face paling. Startled, Su Yuncho pulled her into his arms, remorse washing over him. He should have known better, his wife had always disliked social gatherings. Renren, forgive me. It was just a jest. I'm sure the Grand Chancellor only meant to let everyone relax after such a busy season. If you don't want to go, I'll decline tomorrow. We'll stay home together. He could never have guessed what turmoil was stirring inside her. Chen Renren's mind was uneasy. In her previous life, Xiaolingyan had avoided her as though she carried plague. Why, then, would he invite her now? She shook her head slightly. Whatever his intentions, she cared no longer. All that mattered was to conduct herself properly in this life. The Grand Chancellor hasn't hosted a single banquet since his appointment, she said calmly. If I don't attend, it might be seen as disrespectful. Don't worry, it's only a small headache. I'll rest a while. Su Yuncho helped her lie down, gently massaging her temples. Then I'll do as you wish. We'll go, stay a little while, and leave early. The next morning, Xiaolingyan rose early. He called for the best maid in the residence to comb and style his hair. And when Qinwen too awoke, she found her husband standing before the mirror, adjusting his robe with unusual care. Her heart gave a flicker of suspicion. Why such attention to appearance all of a sudden? Then she remembered the colleagues and their families who would be visiting that day. And her unease faded. She hurried to dress and apply her makeup. Before long, guests began to arrive. Chen Renren, arm in arm with Su Yuncho, stepped across the threshold. Her heart stirred faintly. In her last life, this house had been hers, or rather, she had merely lived here, never truly belonged. She had once heard of Xiaolingyan marrying his cousin. At that time, she had found it strange. He had loved Shinji so deeply, she herself had once felt pity for him because of it. Now, seeing the blooming rockeries and winding streams, she thought, the madam of this house must be a dignified lady. At last, Xiaolingyan has what he always wanted. But just as she and her husband passed through the covered walkway, they met a familiar figure. Or rather, she recognized him, though in this life, they had never met. Lu Hui, Assistant Minister of War, hurried past, leading his wife Shinji by the arm. Their reunion stirred no waves in her heart this time. While Su Yuncho conversed with colleagues, Renren chatted amiably with a few madams she knew. Madame Hu, wife of the Minister of War, cheerful by nature, covered her mouth with a handkerchief and whispered, Minister Xia is quite the romantic, isn't he? Look there, his eyes haven't left our side this entire time. Renren's heart jolted. The superior of Madame Hu's husband, wasn't that Xiaolingyan himself? Even though she had been cautious all day, avoiding his gaze. Upon hearing his name, she instinctively looked up and met Xiaolingyan's eyes head-on. Their gazes locked. Renren immediately turned away, her pulse thundering. There was something strange, something unsettling, in the way he looked at her. Beside her, Madame Hu tittered, still whispering. Who would have thought? The Grand Chancellor, such a lofty man, yet clearly loves his wife dearly. See how he keeps staring, his lady's right there beside us, and he still can't look away. Ah, if only my husband would gaze at me like that, I'd die content. Chen Renren let out a silent sigh of relief. So that's all it was, she told herself. She lifted the cup from the table, sipping little by little, hoping the fragrance of tea might calm the turmoil in her chest. But her thoughts were adrift, and only when the cup was empty did she realize it had not been tea, it was wine. Her tolerance was poor, before long her cheeks were flushed and her head grew heavy. She excused herself, stepping out to the garden beside the banquet hall to clear her mind. The courtyard was lush with exotic blooms and rare plants. She wandered aimlessly down a winding path until she reached a dead end. Just as she turned to go back, faint voices drifted from behind the rockery she had just passed. Lingyan, why do you keep avoiding me? Last time you clearly saw me, yet you turned away. If I hadn't stopped you today, you wouldn't have spoken to me at all, would you? It was Shinji's voice, pleading, fragile, laced with grievance. Xiaolingyan had only followed Chen Renren outside to escape the noisy feast. But he hadn't expected Shinji to trail after him. He hadn't even invited the Lu family to this banquet. Yet Lu Hui, Shinji's husband, had come along with his superior. Since they were guests, Xiaolingyan could hardly make a scene. But his patience for Shinji had long run dry. You are a married woman, he said coldly. Calling me Lingyan is improper. It would be better to call me Lord Xia. And as for avoiding you, I've done no such thing. There is nothing between us to avoid. A man and a woman should keep their distance. I ask Madame Lu to show some restraint. The words were sharp as a blade. Shinji's heart roiled with resentment. Had she known Xiaolingyan would one day stand so high? She would never have married into that infernal Lu household. Where her mother-in-law despised her, her sister-in-law lorded over her. And her husband drifted daily between brothels and wine-houses. Now, she no longer dared dream he would abandon his wife for her. She only wished he would pity her past affection. Take her into his household, even as a concubine. Anything was better than this wretched half-life. Hidden in the shadows, Chen Renren froze at what she heard. The haze of wine cleared halfway. On the other side, Shinji changed her tone, soft, coaxing. I know you blame me, but I was helpless. My parents decided everything. Lingyan, please believe me, I truly tried. We were only missing a little fate. Xiaolingyan gave a humorless laugh. He had already spared her face 3 times. And still she pressed on without knowing her place. I've said enough. If you continue clinging to me, I won't hesitate to invite Lord Liu for tea." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Shinji standing rigid in the moonlight, her eyes cold and dark. After a long while, Qin Renren pressed a hand to her chest and stepped out from behind the trees. What a performance, she thought bitterly. Only, not the one I expected. From that day on, Xiao Lingyan's mind was restless. He could not shake the image of Qin Renren. Her calm voice, her downcast eyes, the faint tremor in her hands. He began searching for a reason, any reason, to see her again. One afternoon, while Su Yunqiu was occupied with official work, Xiao Lingyan finally went to the Su residence. The Su servants, unsuspecting, hurried to welcome the Grand Chancellor and invited him into the reception hall. Then one of them ran to inform their mistress. Qin Renren, who had been auditing the household accounts, quickly set down her abacus and went out to greet the guest. Xiao Lingyan sat there, fingers brushing the rim of his teacup, when a familiar fragrance reached him, and the woman who haunted his dreams stepped through the doorway. For a moment, his throat constricted, he could not find his voice. Renren, composed as ever, bowed politely. "May I ask, my lord, has something happened to my husband?" Her clear, steady gaze made his heart lurch uncontrollably. He paused before answering, his tone low and uneven. "No, nothing of the sort. It's only that Yunqiu's teacup wrap was torn. I happened to be passing by and thought to fetch a new one." The words sounded absurd even to himself. The air in the hall grew taut with quiet discomfort. He continued to stare at her. And in that silence lay a weight of longing and madness he could no longer contain. Renren smoothed her sleeve and smiled faintly. "In that case, allow me to trouble you no further, my lord." A short while later, he left the Su residence. And inside his sleeve, there was a new teacup wrap. Plain, unadorned, embroidered only with a few delicate plum blossoms. He folded his sleeve close to his chest and returned home. Inside, Qin Wentu was standing before her mirror, trying on a newly purchased ornament, admiring her reflection. When Xiao Lingyan entered, she barely turned her head. "My lord husband, you're home early today." Then, with a casual tone, "By the way, has there been any news from Zhushan?" Qin Zhushan was the cousin of Qin Wentu, and therefore Xiao Lingyan's cousin as well. A man of little talent but endless ambition, he dreamed of entering court despite having no learning to speak of. For some reason, Xiao Lingyan suddenly recalled a scene from his previous life. Qin Renren, tearfully pleading for the sake of her uncle's family. "My lord, all those years you studied were thanks to the silver my uncle lent us. He ruined his leg working extra jobs to help us, and his only wish now is for his son to have a decent post. You are already a third-rank official, please, just help him secure a minor position." At that time, Xiao Lingyan had despised nothing more than those who used gratitude as leverage for gain. So, out of spite, he had given that very post to an illegitimate son of the Shen family instead. He hadn't thought twice about it then. But now, looking back, a faint ache stirred in his chest. He quickly sent men to inquire about the uncle's household in Zhongcheng. If Qin Renren had cared so deeply for that family, perhaps arranging something for them now might win him a chance, however small, to make amends. Hours passed in anxious waiting before a servant finally hurried back. "My lord, I've found out. Qin Yongfeng's family moved to the capital 2 years ago. He's now living with his younger sister, relying mostly on his niece's support. Oh, and his son, thanks to his brother-in-law's help, has been given a post in the Ministry of Rights." Xiao Lingyan waved a hand dismissively. So, she had already helped them. No matter, there were still opportunities ahead. The 25th year of the Kangde reign. The emperor's brother, Prince Duan, began stirring rebellion. He accused the Son of Heaven of unfilial conduct, claiming the day and robe of the founding emperor had been desecrated, and that the throne should no longer belong to such a man. The emperor, enraged, ordered the entire Ministry of Rights imprisoned. And Xia Lingyan himself was caught in the net. In his past life, he too had been fearful and uncertain at first. But later discovered it had all been a trap. A ruse by the emperor to lure Prince Duan and his faction into the open. That spring, as expected, Prince Duan stood in open court, shouting accusations of unfilial tyranny. The emperor flew into a rage, ordering the arrest of more than 10 officials. Among them, Su Yunqiu. When Chen Renren heard the news, she was stricken with terror. She and several other ministers' wives rushed toward the palace, intending to plead with the empress. But before they could reach the gates, they ran into Xia Lingyan himself, striding forward. "Where are you going?" Her voice was steady but her eyes shone with resolve. "I must save my husband." "My lord, you are his superior, you know well that Yunqiu is meticulous by nature. The sacred robe of the late emperor, how could he possibly have let it go missing under his care?" Her tone, calm yet firm, struck him like a knife. She would risk everything, her name, her safety, for him. Even when that man was behind bars, her heart never wavered. He drew a deep breath, struggling to master the surge of bitterness in his chest. "Renren." Before he could finish, she cut him off sharply. "My lord, please conduct yourself with propriety." But propriety was long gone. He had come here precisely to break the last boundary between them. Instead of retreating, he stepped forward and seized her wrist. The soft pulse beneath his palm made him tremble. Why, when she had once been his, had he never cherished her? He hated the world, hated Shenji, hated Su Yunqiu. But for once, he had a card to play. Seeing the wildness in his eyes, Chen Renren faltered. The man who had once avoided her like poison now looked at her as though possessed. She tried to pull away, but his grip only tightened. "Let go. Lord Xia, even if you are my husband's superior, you cannot insult another man's wife simply because he is away. If you don't release me, I will report this before the emperor himself." Yet instead of anger, Xia Lingyan only gazed at her with an almost painful tenderness. In that moment, she seemed so familiar, so heartbreakingly close. As if they stood again on the edge of a dream he could never wake from. "Renren, divorce Su Yunqiu." Her eyes widened in disbelief, staring at him as though at a madman. "If you agree to leave him, I will see to it that he is unharmed." When he finished, he released her wrist. Call it shameless, call it vile, he no longer cared. As long as she left Su Yunqiu, he might still have a chance to claim her. "You have 3 days, he said quietly. "Bring me the letter of divorce, and I will keep my word." On the way home, Xia Lingyan's mood was uncharacteristically bright. Seeing the faint smile at his lips, Chen Wentu frowned in confusion. "Even I, a woman, can tell the court is in turmoil and everyone fears for their lives. Why, then, does my husband seem so pleased?" His smile froze. This cousin of his, Chen Wentu, he knew her better than anyone. All tender words and gentle manners on the surface. But beneath it all, nothing but calculation, ambition, status, and the shadow of power behind him. Yes, he thought bitterly, that's the way of it. The court was in chaos, fear ran deep in every heart. If this was fate's calamity upon him, then what use was frowning? His tone turned hollow, almost mocking. Chen Wentu's face blanched in alarm. "My lord, is it truly that grave? You must think of a way, everyone in this household depends on you." Xia Lingyan gave a cold, mirthless laugh. "Begging others is useless. One must save oneself. If you're so afraid of being implicated, I can write you a divorce letter now. Free you of all burden." Without waiting for a reply, he turned and walked into his study. He spread out fine paper, brush in hand, but after a few strokes, the pen faltered. "This estate won't do," he thought. "I'll need to buy another. And the betrothal gifts for Renren, those must be prepared properly." 3 days passed, and the calm confidence in his heart slowly eroded into restlessness. Chen Renren never came. He was not a fool. He had wondered, fleetingly, whether she too had been reborn as he was. But in his past life, he had never revealed the truth to anyone. And Su Yuncho, her husband, could not possibly know. Then where did I go wrong? Just as he was about to go to the Su residence himself, an imperial decree arrived, summoning him to court. It unfolded exactly as it had before. The emperor, furious, rebuked him for poor oversight and ordered him imprisoned on the spot. And, by cruel coincidence, the cell beside his housed Su Yuncho. When Su Yuncho saw him, his eyes lit up. "My lord. You two were arrested." Then this time, could it be? His voice trembled with hope and despair. His robes were torn, his hair disheveled, he looked nothing like the dignified scholar he had been. A dull jealousy stirred within Xiaolingen's chest. "His Majesty is enraged," he said evenly. "I fear both of us are doomed." Su Yuncho gripped the iron bars, then slowly let his hands fall. A sigh of utter defeat escaping his lips. "It's over, everything's over." At that moment, footsteps approached. The jailer led someone forward and barked. "Be quick. 1 cup of tea's time only." He jingled a purse of silver, then turned and left. In the dim, fetid air of the dungeon, Chen Renren did not notice that Xiaolingen occupied the cell right beside her husband's. "My lord husband," she said softly. "I brought clean clothes, and this warm towel. Wipe your face first." She laid out the items one by one. Su Yuncho caught her hand through the bars, voice breaking. "Renren, let us divorce." Clatter. The soup ladle slipped from her fingers, crashing to the ground. For once, the man who always soothed her did not try to soften the blow. I fear I won't make it out of here. But you must live. You must." From his sleeve, he drew out a folded document. "This is a release paper. I bribed the jailer for it. I've signed it already. If you only..." He was about to say if you only add your seal, you'll be spared from punishment. But Chen Renren snatched the paper and tore it to shreds before he could finish. "Don't you dare. I, Chen Renren, am no coward clinging to life in fear of death. If you live, I'll live beside you. If you die, I will not survive alone. If parting were so easy, then why save me that day? You might as well have let me drown." With that, she gathered her skirts and ran off, tears and fury mingling in her eyes. Behind her, Su Yuncho wept silently. "To have such a wife," he murmured, "what more could a man ask for? Blessed am I, truly blessed." His voice cracked in the dark. Then, from the next cell, a voice, cold and mocking, cut through the silence. "How touching." Xiaolingen leaned back against the wall, his tone dripping venom. "Your virtuous lady, with that vermilion mole over her heart, truly knows when to bend and when to yield. That mole. That tiny crimson mark that once blinded him with desire. A place no man should have seen. And yet Su Yuncho surely had. If doubt poisoned his mind, perhaps, just perhaps, there would be a rift. And once that rift opened, he would have his chance again. Forgive me, Renren, he thought grimly. If this is the only way to set things right, then let it be so. But Su Yuncho had gone pale with fury. He slammed his fists against the bars, shouting. Beast! What have you done to her? Xiaolingen blinked, startled, then recovered his composure, voice growing crueler still. What could I have done? She thought you were doomed, so she came to beg me. Promised she would do anything if I kept her safe. Lies. You lie. Renren isn't that kind of woman. What did you do to her? What did you threaten her with, you fiend? Guards. Someone. I'll file a charge. Bring the warden here. Xiaolingen's heart twisted in chaos. Everything had slipped from his grasp. Again. Su Yuncho should have been furious. He should have cursed Chen Renren as a faithless woman, cast her out, and written the divorce himself. Any man would, for no man's heart is free of jealousy. And yet, Su Yuncho never wavered. He trusted her utterly, so completely that even the shadow of doubt could not shake him. That unwavering trust pressed on Xiaolingen's chest like a stone mountain, suffocating, crushing, inescapable. For the first time in both his lives, he found himself powerless. In the days that followed, no matter how Su Yuncho shouted and cursed, Xiaolingen said nothing. He had lost, utterly and completely. Half a month later, the emperor's trap was sprung. Prince Duan's faction was destroyed, their supporters rounded up and executed. The imprisoned officials were all declared innocent, released, and even rewarded for their loyal suffering. Among them, Xiaolingen and Su Yuncho stood apart. Xiaolingen, silent, hollow, like still water that no stone could stir. Su Yuncho, red-eyed with fury, demanding to see the emperor face to face. When he stepped out of the prison gates, he saw his wife waiting for him, smiling, calm, steadfast. His heart surged with heat. He ran to her, tears stinging his eyes. Ren. Were you hurt? Did anyone mistreat you? It's all my fault, all my uselessness. But don't worry, even if I lose this robe and title, I'll see justice done for you. He kept rambling until she placed a gentle hand on his forehead. Are you feverish, my lord? Why are you talking nonsense? Then she slipped her arm through his and smiled faintly. Whatever you wish to say, say it after a meal. Look at you, thin as a reed. If you fall ill, I won't survive it either. Behind them, Xiaolingen lifted his head and saw the pair walking away. Their figures fading into the afternoon light. Tears slipped silently down his cheeks. From behind came hushed whispers. What's wrong with Lord Xia? Why is he crying? You didn't hear. Lord Su walks out of prison to find his faithful wife waiting. But Lord Xia's wife just divorced him days ago. Hush. Don't say that aloud. Still, I'd wager Madame Xia must be regretting it now. The Grand Chancellor's been reinstated, maybe even promoted. The voices faded. Xiaolingen staggered forward, aimless. Where am I going? He didn't know. Only that his steps grew unsteady. And then, the sound of gasps and shouts. Lord Xia. Help. Lord Xia's fallen into the water. My lord, my lord. A soft female voice, warm, anxious. Someone was patting his cheek. What's this? I just saw your eyes flutter. Are you pretending to be asleep? A teasing tone, light as spring wind. Then fingers brushed his side, tickling him gently. Xiaolingen blinked groggily. A blurred figure bent over him, calling him husband, laughing softly. He frowned. Chen Wen too. But hadn't they divorced? Was she clinging to him again now that he'd been pardoned? How tiresome. Yet as his vision cleared, the woman before him came into focus. A silk gown of soft blue. A jade green hairpin glinting above her brow. And that face, tender, bright, achingly familiar. Chen Ren. He looked around, disoriented, and tears spilled, unstoppable. This was the outskirts of Jiangcheng. He knew this house. He knew this air. He had returned. Returned to the very beginning. Returned to the day of their wedding. Chen Ren, startled by his tears, bit her lip. I won't tease you anymore, all right. Don't cry. I was wrong, is that enough? Her voice was warm, her laughter soft. And the ache in his chest broke open into a flood of joy and grief. If this was a dream, then let him never wake again. The end.